Most cities in Cities Skylines 2 end up going bankrupt really early in the game for three main reasons. First, they grow too fast. Second, the services get built too early for the stage of the city. And third, the economy is not ready. What I mean with that is that you're not generating enough income to face all your expenses. Anyways, I'm going to address this in this video. And yeah, welcome to the 2025 edition of how to build a positive economy in Cities Skylines 2. When you load into the map for the first time, my number one rule has to be the most simple building layout you can. Start with smaller grids, 4x4 blocks, that's cool enough. Do minimal roads, don't over layout it, don't make your dream layout right away, it's not needed. Your citizens, they just need a place where they can live, a place where they can work, and a place where they can shop. That's it, the basic need. And eventually, when you start growing up the city, then you can be placing services, you can be placing, parks, leisure, you can place all these other things you want. But early on, start small, don't go overboard. So the early layout for me is like the backbone of your economy on these early stages. It's really important that you understand what you're kind of doing when you're building the layout. So, for instance, if you think like that every extra mile that you build of road or every service that you are building, they all have maintenance costs, they all have budgets, and if your city economy is not ready for that, then you shouldn't build it. And also, don't overdo layouts. Because you build a road, you delete the road, you build another road, you delete that road, and you're spending money, and it's not necessary, because early on, although you do have a nice amount of cash, it's gonna go very fast, if you play it like that. So practical layout tips that I normally do is like, I only use early on one collector road connecting to the highway, and normally the maps already come with that, but if they don't do that, you just build a medium road that connects to the highway, and that works as a collector. And then residential buildings, you have to place residential zones, but don't overdo it. Start with small pockets, in one side of that collector road. You want to start small, and I will explain it further in the tutorial why you should start small. Don't do it all at once. And then you want to be placing commercial zones in that highway, into that, not highway, but the collector of the highway. And the reason of that is that you want to be placing it in a location where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of cars moving in, so it brings in customers. You also don't want to be placing commercial too far away from residential buildings, because like I said, these are your customers, and you want to have commercial successful because they will pay you taxes, and the more successful they are, the more revenue they do while selling to customers, the more you're going to make on taxes. You make like a value from their income. And the third part of it is when it comes to industries opposite to commercial, they don't require to be very close to residential. In fact, they shouldn't be close to residential, but instead they should be close to your highway, because closer to the highway, it means that you're going to have lower costs for your transportation, either from import or export. So if you are importing something from far away, you're going to pay more from that transportation from transport from that raw resource that comes from another city or another country into your factory. It's going to cost a lot. And also, if you want to export it, you're probably going to be able to export and make more profit on your exportations if your transportation is, lower. So you want to be placing it nearby your highway connections or your highway interchange. When we look into services, this is like the part where it sinks new cities, literally. And I mean, you look into the cities, you look into the services, you've unlocked it. They do look like cheap, you look into them. I mean, they're not too expensive. I've unlocked it. Probably I do need to place them in the city, and you place them. And then there's the upkeep. And honestly, it's brutal. It's literally brutal if you not care enough about it, if you do not tailor the services properly. So, the reason I'm talking about it is because there are a couple of services that are mandatory early on, like the electricity, like the water and sewage. These are mandatory. You cannot, start a city without them, and you build these services. I would recommend when you reach level, I think 2. The first level you reach to, because it unlocks the services tab, to go there and reduce the budget as much as you can, because you don't need to spend too much on the upkeep for the time being, and then eventually you can upgrade it whenever there's power failures or there's just not enough water or sewage processing on your city. And then you should be able to build the garbage facility early on when it's unlocked. I mean, you can wait, like I normally like to do. I wait for when there's an icon that is telling me there is garbage. So that's when I build the land facility for garbage. And the same thing with medical. So medical, those are like the main services that you should build early on. But then again, build medical when there's someone needing of assistance. Everything else delay as long as possible. The police station, the firehouses, education, schools, parks and leisure, public transportation. You don't really need them early on. Of course, to have like a fire station, police station, they are really nice to have early on, but they're not really needed on the city. So wait until you have like a very steady income before placing them. Now, another important thing has to do with the option or the possibility to avoid debt waves or unemployment spikes. And normally what I like to do with that, and has to do with also the fact that when you start building, I always say build it small, has to do with that. If you build a lot of residential zones all at once, they're gonna feel really early on. A lot of people are coming in, but then further down in the road, those people that came in, they're gonna die, and it's gonna be creating like a lot of debt waves, because a lot of people came in, they're probably around the same age, they die a lot early on. So I would say and recommend also to build a cemetery when available. Like me, like on the previous topic, build it only when it starts showing people are dying, then you should build like a cemetery. Also, that will definitely avoid those debt waves, but unemployment has also to do a little bit with education, and like I said, you don't want to add too much education early on. Just do it quick, slowly, steady, in order to have your citizens not being over educated and refuse these low-skilled jobs that you are creating early on industries and commercial buildings. The next section has to do with taxes and services fees. So these are the two main income sources that you can have. The first one, taxes, is like the big cake of your or the big slice of your revenue. Taxes are quite simple, and you don't want to overboard it. You don't want to push it too far away. A safe value when it comes to taxes for residential, commercial, and industry is around 13%. You can go a little bit further to 15 or 16%. Depends on the city, depends on how your citizens will accept it. I personally prefer to stay on the 13%. It seems to work really nice, and it gives you that balance between happiness and overpaying, so you're not gonna be having a reduced demand of those services. There's a fourth service, the offices. I'm not giving you a value for it right now, mostly because offices, they are unlocked further down in the road, and eventually when you already reach the offices, you should already be on a very steady, income of your city, so it should be good. And of course, when it comes to offices, you can also play with the taxes and try to figure out what works the best. So yeah, don't raise too much those taxes, otherwise you're gonna have lower demand, and lower demand means lower growth of your city. And when it comes to services, you have services that your citizens will pay. So those services will have a fee value into it that you can change. Services like electricity, water, sewage, those services have that fee that you can increase or decrease. I would say don't overdo it, don't make it too high the value, but also don't make it too low. I normally don't touch that much on the value. I'll keep it by default, but you can tailor it a little bit and check how it looks like. Another important part here is managing your production. Now, you can produce in your city raw materials, and that's an important way of generating revenue. Not only those businesses that you're placing, they will have a revenue that will be taxed in the industry section, but they also will produce those raw materials that your industry will then use to produce consumer goods that then can be sold to your commercial zone. So if you keep it inside your city, it means that you're not going to be importing as much, and therefore imported goods will also mean you're going to have less freight traffic, and your expenses will not skyrocket too early on. So normally what I like to do is I like to place specialized industry soon, as soon as I have it possible. On the early stages, normally I go with farms and wood, for instance. But if I do have on the map resources for oil and ore, I will also build like a coal mine or something like that. Of course, all these other industries you end up unlocking as further down the road, but you should always have that in mind. And then, of course, keeping your industrial near to the highway, also having your commercial buildings not too far away from your industries, like a buffer between industries and residential, is also important, because it means that there's going to be a lot less time when it comes to delivering those goods to your businesses. You can keep an eye on the production tab and kind of micromanage it the way you see it fit. And it's a good way of making money, because the more profitable your industry is and your commercial buildings are, the more you're going to make from taxes. Another good tip has to do with expansion. So people normally end up buying tiles very early on because they think it's a good way to unlock the map and have access to more areas. For me, I will only buy a new tile when I need space, either for more zoning or when I want a very specific resource. For instance, if I want to buy an area that has more trees, so I can build like the woods industry, I will buy an extra tile for that, and that's it. Because the more tiles you buy, there's an upkeep, and the more of the tiles you buy, the bigger the upkeep is going to be, and it's going to be more complicated for your industry, or for your not industry, but for your economy very early on. So when should you buy these tiles? Basically, when you need them. Don't buy them just because you want them to be part of your city early on. Another one has to do with education and the workforce management. Yes, so I know that education is quite important because it improves your tax revenue, but one thing I've ended up learning along the road is that you don't really want to rush to have your citizens fully educated. And the reason for that is because early on you will not have these high paying jobs, and if your citizens are highly educated, they will probably refuse to work on these lower paying jobs, like in your industries or in your commercial buildings. So a good tip in here is trying to keep like a healthy mix of low, medium and high educated workers. So you can place your first education building like when you start stabilizing your income or your financial income, but don't overdo it. And eventually, when you start unlocking services and when you start looking that there's more unemployment for highly skilled people, then you start improving your education. So before closing the video, let's look into like a checklist of what you should do, like a resume of what we talked about and what you should do regarding the city in order to have like this early city with positive economy. So the first thing is to start a tiny and small city and then expand slowly. I think that's really good. You want to keep roads compact. You don't want to make layouts too complicated early on. Grid layout is great. Keep it that way. Most cities are built nowadays with grid layouts. Eventually you can expand it to different kind of layouts. You want to place commercial on main traffic routes because you want to attract your customers. You want to place industries near highway access because you do not want them to have expensive freight prices. You want to build only the essential services early on. You don't want to overdo that. You want to zone residential buildings in batches so it can avoid in the future the debt waves. You want to keep taxes on the between 13 to probably 16% range, so that you have a good income but not overdo it to a point where your citizens are unhappy and they don't want to move into your city. You want to check and monitor imports and building specialization so that you will help your industries and commercial buildings to become more profitable and therefore you make more money out of their taxes. You just want to buy tiles only when they are needed. You do not need to buy them early on. In fact, you can grow your city on one tile a lot and then just buy the other tiles. The last tip, of course, or the last tip on this checklist is just to pace education carefully. Like I said before, I know that I said in previous videos that you should focus on education to make your city profitable, and you should, because it does increase your taxes revenues, but don't overdo it because you may collapse your industries or your commercial buildings because they will not have enough people willing to work for them. So that's, for me, the best way to build a stable and profitable city early on in Cities Skylines 2, at least for now in 2025. If you do want me to cover deeper content on ports and bridges, DLC, or the new bike system, just let me know in the comments. By the way, I will probably do those, even if you don't say anything on the comments, but leave a comment. I'm always happy to see what you guys think. And yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, good luck building your dream city.